Turning now to Russia's war on Ukraine, which has entered its third month. The United States has announced a further $700 million in funding to help Ukraine buy more weapons. U.S. money will also flow to several other European countries to help them restock their arms. The announcement came during a visit by Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. It's the highest level U.S. delegation to Kyiv since the invasion began.
A warm welcome back to Kyiv after a secretive train journey across the Polish-Ukraine border to the capital. The high-level delegation sent by U.S. President Joe Biden to offer face-to-face messages of support and admiration.
The reason we're back is because of you, because of the extraordinary courage, leadership, and success that you've had in pushing back this horrific Russian aggression.
Both Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin offered Zelensky condolences for the loss of life in Ukraine and further economic and military support. As ever, Zelensky was grateful, then to the point about his needs. The priorities are weapons and support from the United States and our partners, from European leaders, in terms of our Army's strength and support in certain areas. Zelensky was quick to point out the U.S. has already given billions in assistance since Russia's invasion and repeated his military must have top-level armaments if it is to beat back the invader in places like the Donbass region, where Russia has tried to reinvigorate its efforts to achieve changing goals in Ukraine. Its focus no longer Kyiv, the capital, but the east and southern coast of Ukraine. Safely back across the Polish border after the meeting, Austin said Ukraine can be victorious over Russia.
In terms of their ability to win, the first step in winning is believing that you can win. And so they believe that we can win. We believe that they can win if they have the right equipment, the right support. And we're going to do everything we can, continue to do everything we can to ensure that that gets.
Austin and Biden together announced a further $700 million in military support for the Ukraine cause before Austin moved on to Ramstein, Germany for a meeting with NATO defense ministers and other donor countries.
Returning to the situation in Ukraine, the railway service there says there have been coordinated attacks against its infrastructure across the country. Oleksandr Kamyshin is the chairman of the Ukrainian railway service and joins me now. Mr. Kamyshin, welcome. At least 5 railway stations are reported to have come under fire today. Can you describe the situation for us?
Indeed, today in the morning, Russians shelled 5 stations. Some stations were shelled twice, some stations were shelled once, and some missiles were blocked by Ukrainian air defense system. But nevertheless, 5 stations were shelled and damaged significantly. Although we found a way how to renew passenger trains, and as of now, all the passenger trains, and we got 19 passenger trains blocked. And all of them already gone. Some of them already arrived. Some of them arrived with delay, but nevertheless we renewed the passenger traffic and keep preparing.
Give us an idea of how important the rail service is for Ukraine's war effort in terms of evacuating people and getting supplies into the country.
Well, the railway maintains the lifeline of the country, and indeed, it's not already that important for evacuation trains, but just for passenger traffic. We don't have airplanes, we have only cars and trains now, and people move not only from center, south, and east to west, but also from west to center. And blocking the railways is blocking the passenger movement across the whole country.
Now, this is not the first time the Russian army is attacking the railway infrastructure. Can you tell us what the overall state of Ukraine's railway system is after 2 months of war?
Well, after the 2 months of the war, they shelled hundreds of times stations, bridges, tracks, and railway stations. And meanwhile, we suffer much, but we keep running operations. We keep running passenger traffic, cargo traffic, humanitarian aid. And so far, no matter how hard we are damaged, we find a way how we can repair, how we can shortcut the traffic, and how we can move on.
Now, how are you and your employees preparing for the possibility of an intensified Russian campaign against your stations, your trains, and tracks? You say you keep them running, but how do you ensure that? Today
we got about 10 missiles in 5 stations. Not much a railway can do to protect themselves from airstrikes. That's why we ask Western world for assistance with closing the sky. Because again, we do all the job on the ground, but we can't be protected from air. A number of Western leaders talking about assistance have traveled to Kyiv to show their support in recent weeks. They all came into your country by train. Is that still safe enough, you think, given the increased Russian attacks on the rail service? Again, Russians shell the whole country from east to west, from north to south, and they shell no matter what the building is, civilian building, kindergarten or school or a railway station. So far, the railway stations and trains are the safest way of transportation in Ukraine, and we keep them safe. And definitely all Western leaders who arrived to Ukraine arrived by train. And we are grateful for their coming, showing support to Ukraine. And we call it iron diplomacy, and we will keep bringing more people to Kyiv. And for us, it's important to give the opportunity to those leaders who want to show their support of Ukraine by visiting Kyiv, to travel to Kyiv safe and travel back safe. And indeed, we keep remaining railway transport as safe as we could. All the measures are taken. That was Oleksandr Kamyshin, the head of the Ukrainian rail service. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Bye.